Good afternoon. We have a quorum. This is the session for Public Works. We will have both Bernadette Lin give her speech first.
總額係大約
Thank you. In this year, the total estimated expenditure of Works Branch and its departments is about $24,476.4 million. There is a decrease of 397 civil service posts, a reduction of 2.5%. Next, I will highlight the work of the Development Bureau in the Works portfolio, particularly several key initiatives involving additional funding in the budget. The first section is on how we will turn the construction industry into new quality productive forces. Infrastructure projects are a crucial investment for our long-term and suitable and sustainable development. This year's capital works expenditure is estimated to be about $128 billion, which will remain at a similar high level until 2030 and 31. While continuously investing resources in land and infrastructure development, the government is committed to reducing construction costs. We are driving reforms on 4 fronts, including optimizing the project's procurement model, applying advanced technologies, streamlining the approval process, and reviewing the design standards and requirements. All these initiatives will be implemented once they are ready. In addition, we have been supporting innovation. The budget has proposed earmarking $1 billion for further injection into the Construction, Innovation and Technology Fund. Altogether, $2.2 billion have been injected in total. And this year, a further $1 billion will be earmarked for injection into the fund, together with the Construction Industry Council's contribution of $400 million, bringing the total of the fund to $1.4 billion. It will be used to promote wider adoption of innovative technologies, including promoting the application of new technologies such as robots, AI, and digital construction technologies in the industry, and organizing relevant training programs. Furthermore, it is mentioned in the budget that $100 million will be earmarked for commissioning the Building Technology Research Institute to conduct various studies, including reviewing construction standards and exploring AI applications, so as to promote applied research and development and strengthen control over construction costs. The 2 above-mentioned injection, as well as the impact on the cash flow, has been included in the estimates of the Works branch. The construction industry has to contribute to the country's development. That is why we will maintain close contact with the relevant ministries in the mainland, so as to bring about alignment of rules, and also contribute the advantage of our construction industry into the Bay Area. Just last week, the Construction Industry Council has announced the works expenditure estimates as well as the manpower survey for the next 5 years. With the development of the Northern Metropolis and various infrastructure projects, the amount of private projects will rebound very soon. There is great demand for manpower in the construction industry for the next 5 years. That's why the budget has proposed an allocation of $65 million to increase the number of training places under the graduate training scheme to 260 this year. The aim is to support more construction graduates gaining work experience in order to obtain professional qualifications. This will help retain talents for the industry. Another area is in relation to built heritage conservation. We have attached much importance to the area of work, and we have established the Built Heritage Conservation Fund, which has received injections of $3.6 billion over the years. To date, the fund has approved project funding of over $3.4 billion. It is going to dry out, so the budget proposed an additional allocation of $1 billion to the fund to continue taking forward the work, among which $700 million will be used to continue to implement the revitalizing historic buildings through partnership scheme. According to the mechanism, we will invite non-profit making organizations to submit proposals to revitalize historic buildings. We will submit these projects one by one to the FC for approval. The remaining $300 million will be used to continue the implementation of the other three schemes under the fund, most of which will be earmarked for the financial assistance for maintenance scheme on built heritage. This is a program to subsidize owners and tenants of graded historic buildings to carry out maintenance works for the relevant buildings. According to the actual need, we will earmark the relevant funding under the relevant heads. The last area I would like to point out is utilizing technologies to proactively address extreme weather. To meet the challenges posed by extreme weather, various works departments have set up emergency response and monitoring mechanisms. We endeavor to continuously enhance the effectiveness of the mechanism with proactive use of technologies. Through promoting digital intelligence management, we proactively leverage AI to strengthen the alert systems, so as to allow us to respond early to flooding and landslides, and to alert the public to take shelter. Besides, to prevent disruptions to fresh water supply caused by water mains burst, we are currently expanding and upgrading the water intelligence network to strengthen the detection of leakage in the water distribution network, and planning to adjust water pressure with AI to reduce the risk of water mains burst. Chairman, the details of the tasks of the works portfolio have been provided in the controlling officer's reports. Me and my team will be happy to respond to further questions from members. Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. Now we have 15 members in total. They are Mr. Chan Cho Kwong, Dr. Aaron Bok, Mr. Mark Chong, Chan Pui Kwong, Zhao Siri Chung, Yu Ming, Andrew Lam, Bill Tang, Lam Chen Sing, Perry Yu, Michelle Tang, Jonathan Stewart Lamport, Mr. Tommy Zhong, Christine Fong, and Brave Chen. 4 minutes for each member. Questions and answers included. Please keep your question within 1 minute to allow some time for the officials to respond. Mr. Chan Cho Kwong. Thank you. Concerning my own question, that's 005 on the Built Heritage Conservation Fund. Now we have a lot of T-shaped, so-called T-shaped road signs in Hong Kong. They are very unique. They are parts of our history. Many of these road signs are attached to building facade rather than a post. So will these road signs be covered by the fund? And can we add some description to the signs? For example, in Guangzhou, there are signs describing the history and background of the buildings. Now, most of the roads are named after colonial era governors and officials. So we would like to keep the memory fresh in the next generation's mind that we have been occupied for so long. Now, the Built Heritage Conservation Fund is mainly for maintaining the entire historic building. Now, this is a very interesting suggestion, however, because road signs are also of historic value. Maybe we can do it through other funds, because this would divert funding from the fund. Now we will convey this message to the Highways Department, which is responsible for managing and operating roads, to find existing resources to maintain the road signs.
Next, Mr. Aaron Buck. My question is 004, 074, and 075. With 005, we talked about development of the Northern Metropolis and the establishment in civil service. I think it is unreasonable as what, according to data in the annex, the CEDD will have 27 engineers less in a few years, Highways Department 33 less, Water Supplies Department 10 less, Lands Department 35 surveyors less. I think this has something to do with the government making cuts to the civil service establishment. I think if we make a further cut, it can be very bad for the works department. So would you consider waiving the arrangements for public works departments? On 074, it's about Lung Tan. For 075, I asked if we can include Kao Yu Chao reclamation or artificial islands in the 5-year plan. Now, can we have the Kao Yu Chao reclamation included in the 5-year plan? And we do not need any fill because we have 15 million tons of fill recovered every year. Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Bach, for asking about the manpower in the works departments. The works departments are a part of the government. If we are to make cuts to the establishment, the works departments should not be exempt. How can we do more work with less manpower? It's about us being smarter, making use of technology, and we should also do something about the determination of priorities. Please rest assured, even with less manpower, we can still undertake works projects. Chair, I just want to say I have collected feedback from officers and they said they are working a little too hard. All right, we can work together on this. As for Lung Tan reclamation, we have a consensus on this project, and we have support from the council. We are doing some technical assessments. Hopefully, next year we'll get funding to commence the reclamation project. We review our resource allocation every year. This is currently the goal. As for Kao Yu Chao reclamation, thank you for your support. We never gave up on this. As for what the member asked for us to include it in the 5-year plan for policy bureaus, we note the suggestion. We will consider your suggestion in our planning. Thank you. Mr. Chang Ho Feng, I want to ask about 078. We talked about the South Lantau Eco Recreation Corridor. According to the reply, there will be a report made in 2026-27. It is important to have north-south connectivity on Southern Lantau. And you talked about in March 2023, we have enhanced network plans for the road network. And you said you would make a report in due course. In 2026-2027, if we still don't have a transportation plan, how can we give our support to the direction? When will you make a report? I also want to ask about 112. We have this smart water application system. It will be able to detect pipe bursts and it can save maintenance. But you said the smart water pressure management system research and development expenditure would cost $2.1 billion. Would it be just the research and development? Would it also include, say, the construction costs? For 024, many construction companies told us with the increase in oil prices, it has really hurt them. Before they would need $500,000, now they need $1.5 million. And many public works construction companies ask for costs to be covered. Will there be contingency plans of the Development Bureau so as not to cause a delay with works projects? Thank you, Secretary. The second question, I will have the Director of Water Supplies answer this. For the first question, we plan to make a report to the panel this year on South and Lantau, the study on ecotourism notes. We will also talk about then the north-south connectivity on Lantau Island. Then, about public works projects, whether it will be impacted by the increase in oil prices. Public works projects have this price adjustment mechanism, and oil is an important component of the price adjustment mechanism. The government will have regard to increase in the factor prices and allocate additional funding. So we should be able to deal with that with our existing mechanism. Thank you, Director of Water Supplies. We talked about research and development for the smart water pressure management system. With implementation, we need to have suitable sensors. We need the hydraulic model. We also have the smart water meters. In 5 years, we'll be able to install everything. So the whole cost would be $2.1 billion. Correct. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chen Pui Kong. Thank you, Chair. I will follow up on my question 012. The Secretary's reply is that for energizing Kowloon East, goal is to have Kowloon East become the second CBD to support the city's economic development. And we have in the core part of Kowloon East, we have the vacancy rate of private office premises being 22.1%. Would you consider expanding the functions of energizing Kowloon East office to allocate additional funding or to have dedicated personnel for industrial development and attraction of enterprises to try to reduce the vacancy rate in Kowloon East and specifically Kwun Tong? My reply will probably disappoint members. The EKEO's target is to boost development in the area. We did not have the Kartak development area then, which was why we wanted to have the office to try to really revitalize or energize the area, and we will be able to revitalize Kwun Tong, Kowloon Bay, and other older neighborhoods. We have already done some work in this regard, so with this vision more or less achieved, the EKEO's work will be reduced and its functions will in future be handled by other government departments such as the planning department. They also have a planning officer in the area. They will perhaps deal with relevant work. If we are to expand the functions of the EKEO, that would be against the policy intent. We also need to have regard to the priorities of public finance. But we thank the member for his support of the EKEO's work. We have a time-limited post that will lapse in one financial year, And in this financial year, we will have to review the way forward for the EKEO. So perhaps we can think about what we'll do in due course. Mr. Chao Siu Chung, I want to follow up on 033, a question of Mr. Lam Chen Sing about the labor importation scheme for the construction sector. I note that in the latest figures for effective quotas, it is 6,000 odd. Compared to Q2 of last year, it was 8,000 something, so there is a decrease. In general, the Development Bureau seems to be quite prudent in approving quotas for imported labor. The Construction Industry Council released the latest manpower forecast for the construction sector, and I note for some occupations, for example, air conditioner technician, as well as other workers, metal workers, electricians, etc., it has been better than that forecasted. We have a moderate gap for the occupations before, and according to latest forecast, it has now become just a mild gap. So we have seen an improvement. But according to the Secretary's reply, we have for the labor importation scheme, these occupations or these trades being the ones that have the highest imported worker numbers. Why did it deviate from the situation still with manpower gap? How can we make sure we have our approval criteria that will allow us to have a targeted approach with imported labor? I will ask the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Lau, to answer the relevant questions. Thank you. We do have similar considerations when we try to approve workers' importation. We want to see whether we cannot really recruit locally such trade workers. We have an application cycle every 3 months. We have recently more workers that would work on infrastructure projects. So we have less workers who would do the preparation works such as plastering. So we are reviewing the changes in the market. We do note that in the forecast, we still have a gap, but we have seen that gap close because we have seen the projects entering their later stages. And with the electrical and mechanical work done, we are more or less complete. Chair, I have some time left, so I would want to follow up on this. I understand that for the trades, when we are counting the unemployment rate, it would be on the maintenance and repairs part. The foundation part is the early stage. And for the later works, I can see the unemployment rate for a long time has been over 8%. We do see there is a higher manpower supply. So I hope in future the Bureau will make some adjustments to the criteria with labor importation. With more labor supply on the market, we should be more strict with importation of labor. That's my comment. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Yuming. Thank you, Chair. I want to ask about 087. This is about cycle tracks. In the past 3 years in Yunlong, we have the total length being approximately 55 kilometers. So I want to ask in Yunlong, what is the cycle track connectivity situation at the moment? Can we have seamless transition in between new development areas and public transport interchanges? This is very important for the accessibility of new territories residents. On public parking spaces for bicycles, I can see in the reply there are plans on the part of the administration, but we do note the issue. We have bicycles abandoned accident. We also have shared bicycles being parked anywhere, and we also have illegal parking of motorcycles. There are also some miscellaneous articles. How can we have better enforcement, and we can perhaps charge spaces close to public transport interchanges to make sure there's proper management?
Secretary, thank you. The first question is on the planning for cycling tracks in Yunnan. I will put a question to the director of CED. Second question on illegal parking issue of bicycles. This is a long-standing and deep-rooted issue. It requires joint operation among multiple departments, coordinated by the district officer. Concerning the availability of bicycle parking spaces, when we provide cycling tracks, this will be a factor that we keep in mind. I will defer the question to the director for CD. Thank you, Chairman. To answer the question briefly, the answer is yes. In planning the development of NDA, one of our focuses is to enhance the connectivity by enhancing road connectivity as well as cycling tracks connectivity. There is a concept called 15 minutes living circle. Cycling tracks and pedestrian walkways are very important in the concept. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. Deputy Chairman, I'm following up on Dr. Junice Ho's question. Number 25, concerning the public works expenditure, in particular, consultancy fees and on-site staff. Now, the expenditure for on-site staff between year 21 and 25, in fact, the expenditure on public works has been quite steady. That's also for consultants' fee as well. However, for remuneration of RSS or resident site staff, it has been rising. However, we don't see the increase reflected in the enhancements in safety level and the quality of projects. Is the government aware of this issue? Can the government conduct a review to study whether the increase in remuneration cost is needed? Safety and quality has not improved with the increase in remuneration. So where does the problem lie? Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the member for the question. If you look at the figures, in terms of consultants' fees, that's mostly related to implementation of new projects. It concentrates in the preliminary stage of the work, for example, planning and design. Concerning remuneration for resident on-site staff, that is part of the annual expenditure on the projects. Actually, every year the expenditure has been rising, so the trend aligns with the overall trend. Now, concerning the remuneration of resident site staff, is there room for compression? We have come up with some measures in the past few years. For example, adding new posts to deliver non-professional tasks so that the professionals can focus on their own tasks. This has effectively reduced the remuneration cost. Over the past few years, the proportion of remuneration of resident site staff has been declining. Mr. Bill Tang. Thank you, Deputy Chairman. My question is in relation to energizing Kowloon East. So that's question 02, 12, and 13. Now, I think the Secretary is also aware that I always care about the work of the energizing Kowloon East. We should migrate from infrastructure planning to a market-led approach. Now, I was alarmed by the Secretary's answered. You would review the mechanism after 5 years' time, and the office may or may not exist anymore after 5 years' time. So I am rather displeased with the answer. The entire Energizing Kowloon East office may be gone. The positioning of CBD2 for the area has been set by the term of the government, and its importance is reflected by the establishment. So if this establishment is gone, does it mean that the positioning of CBD2 is gone as well? Without this office, which organization will coordinate the efforts between private and commercial developers? Now, I know the focus is now on the northern metropolis, but if we delete the structure completely, then I'm worried that whether Kowloon East will lose its positioning as CBD2. I think there is much potential in the area. There is a very sophisticated culture of entrepreneurship in the area, as well as sufficient infrastructure support. So I wonder how the government views the functions of the Energizing Kowloon East office. Secretary, we don't have a final plan yet. The objective fact is that the office has been established not for the permanent term. So whether the office will continue to exist and whether it will be downsized, it shouldn't affect the government's determination to take forward developments in Kowloon East. Taking the most extreme scenario, if the Energizing Kowloon East office is discontinued, its work of developing Kowloon East will be taken up and absorbed by other government departments. Its closure does not mean that the positioning of Kowloon East as the second CBD is gone. Now, consider attracting investment and businesses. At this stage, I understand that the member is very eager to see businesses moving into Kowloon East. Indeed, that's not our main portfolio. That's the job of the Invest Hong Kong, which is our close partner. So on that, we will discuss the division of labor with other departments. Deputy Chairman, if I may, Kowloon East is CBD 2.0. That is, attraction of businesses and investment should be the leading approach. I highly suggest the government establish a committee comprising the private sector, commercial sector, and the academia, so as to build a wide network. Ms. Lam Chen Sing, thank you. My question is on 32 and 37. 32 is on the expenditure of public works. It has been on the rise to some $120 billion per year. So we hope the projects will start as soon as possible. But there were information showing that there are fewer projects planned by the Architectural Services Department. And sometimes these projects being planned would be scrapped entirely. Now, with the improvements in the government's fiscal situation, can we relax the threshold and launch the projects in plan so as to provide more businesses to the construction industry? 37, as mentioned by the Secretary, the government has injected $1.4 billion more into the construction industry I&T fund. Now, we are worried that some applicants would abuse the fund to promote their own products. Now, can consultancy services be provided to SME contractors so that they know what I&T products to procure for their construction sites, so that they would not procure the wrong equipment. Now, there will be new requirements for working in closed areas, and also technology have to be deployed for cranes. So can we support these projects first so that the SMEs can more easily fulfill the requirements of the Labor Department? Secretary. Deputy Chairman, the first question is on how the annual expenditure is allocated to different kind of projects. Now, there is a wide range of public works projects. Each year's priority may vary. Projects under the Architectural Services Department might not always get the priority. I understand the member's concern. The job types required for RHSD's projects and public works projects are different. If there is a decline in the amount of work in a certain year, it may affect the employment of workers of a certain job type. So besides public works, we would like to reinvigorate the private market. If there are more private building projects being implemented, it will certainly help the employment prospects of workers. So we are encouraging private building projects to be implemented. Concerning the Construction Innovation and Technology Fund, or CITF, we are not just approving any application that comes to us. The Construction Industry Council would offer steering concerning the type of projects suitable for the fund. For example, the forest system in relation to construction site safety and also BIM training. But I agree with the member. We will work closely with the Construction Industry Council and the relevant departments, including the Labor Departments, to see where the focus of the fund should be. The Industry Council will provide a stronger steering role in terms of funding approval. Next, Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, Deputy Chairman. I'm following up on two questions. The first one is my own question. Number 121 on the ex-Shamshui Port Surface Reservoir Grade 1 Heritage Building. Now, according to the figures, there is a large amount of visitors. There were 110,000 visits to the site. So besides the summer months where there were fewer visitors, on average, there's some 10,000 visitors per month. So the Water Supplies Department has been offering dozen services. But can we think out of the box and even introduce business components to turn the site into a tourism attraction where consumers can spend the money? That will bring another tourism hotspot for the area. The other one is number 88, my own question as well. I'm very concerned about the pier improvement program. Many piers have received improvements, and the renewed piers are great, especially for some of them. They can facilitate island hopping tourism. Now, for the Lychee Wall Pier, however, the planning began in 2018, and now we are coming close to 2028. Now, actually, it is of the same batch of program. Together with the High Island Pier. So why hasn't it started? Secretary, on the first question, ex-Shamshui Port Water Service Reservoir, I fully agree with the member that there is potential for turning the reservoir into something bigger. But that may be beyond the work scope of the Water Supplies Department. It has done its best by adopting innovative ideas to revitalize the place. The Development Bureau will study whether there are better long-term plans for the reservoir. We didn't do that because of prioritization of work. Concerning the pier improvements program, we understand that Mr. Yu would like to see the Lychee Wall Pier Improvements project to be kick-started soon. But my brief reply is we have to prioritize our resources, so we will see what we can do about the pier.
好，鄧明心議員。
Miss Michelle Tang. Thank you, Chair. I want to ask about 056. That's my question. I am very concerned about the employment of the engineering sector as well as VPAT trades. The public works expenditure is at 12.8 or $128 billion, considering inflation and the increase in construction costs. But we have to also have budget cuts resulting in a decrease in the number of projects. It can really affect the livelihood of practitioners, perhaps even the quality of projects. Would we have some sort of job stability mechanism so that during off-peak seasons we will have some minor works projects commencing so that we will not see staff cuts during off-peak seasons? Now, for the capital works expenditure, is it the case that when we are tight on finance, the government will terminate or suspend certain projects, and the sector did not expect this? Would we have a minimum number of projects to be undertaken so that the sector can plan in advance? Secretary, let me give a consolidated response. Every year, how many public works projects are to be undertaken? We would have reference to the expenditure allocated in the budget. This year, it's $128 billion. We do want to facilitate planning of the sector. As the financial secretary said, it's not just this financial year. For the 4 following financial years, the expenditure level will be maintained at the current level. The financial secretary did not have to say this, but he said this so that the sector will be prepared. But with this in mind, every year what public works projects are to be undertaken, it would have to depend on the circumstances in that year, how prepared we are, and what the needs of stakeholders are. In a particular year, there may be greater demand for Northern Metropolis projects to be undertaken. In a year, it may be the pipe projects. In another year, it may be the harborfront projects. We have already some projects approved, and we will look at the cash flows for each year. Now, the baseline is we will allocate $128 billion for works projects. As for what the members said about there being fluctuations, the smaller contractors and workers may be concerned. And this is actually what we saw last year. What the Development Bureau did was they would ask works departments when they have received invoices, they would make payments as soon as possible. And with this, it will definitely help with the cash flow situation of contractors. And we have implemented administrative measures like this to help contractors tide over the gap. Mr. Jonathan Lamport, I want to follow up on 083 and 084 about the CEDD's management of materials, construction materials. We have already a number of large-scale reclamation projects completed. We have the fill reception facilities at their full capacity. The additional expenditure is mostly for the costs transporting the fill to the mainland. Will that mean we will have an additional and increasing expenditure every year? How can we prevent this from becoming a black hole? I will ask the CEDD director to answer the questions. Thank you, Chair. For a very long time, where the fill would go is reclamation projects. And we saw in the past few years, we had the 3-runway system project and the Tongchong East reclamation projects taking in much of the fill. We are doing more in this regard. We want to tackle the root cause of the problem to minimize the fill generated in the first place, and then we want to reuse and make good use and recycle the fill. We have been working hard in this regard. And as said in our reply, we have some reclamation projects, for example, Area 132 of Chen Kuan O. We also have the Lung Ku Tan reclamation project planned. We expect with these reclamation projects and the 3 areas of work we said earlier, we will be able to minimize the amount of fill transported to Taishan. Thank you. Mr. Tommy Chung, I want to follow up on 092, a question of Professor Alex Fan. In the past 3 years, the government in Yunlong, Taipo, Saigon, and Shatin conducted some drainage services works, and every year during rain season, the observatory would issue flooding reports. And in 2023, we had a longest period where we had a black rainstorm warning. And in August of 2025, we had a peak in rainfall, a record high in recent years. And in Hetao and Santin Technopole, they are in the downstream area of Shenzhen River. We will also have the Northern Link works being undertaken. It will go through the low-lying areas in Campton. How can we make sure we can overcome unprecedented rainfall that we will not see in 100 years like we did before? I will ask the Director of Drainage Services to answer the questions. We do have a design manual with flood prevention facilities. We have accommodated for this in design. We have different design standards for the channels. Compared to other advanced cities, we actually have comparable standards. In the Northern Metropolis, with the flood actuation facilities, we have certain design standards to follow. We do have an integrated management strategy, and we adopt a gradual approach where we are trying to make sure we rise up to the challenge of the threat of climate change in future. We also reserve adequate land in design and planning to have flood resilient facilities. But there's still this uncertainty. We can always have this doomsday event, but we are practicing relevant strategy at the moment. Any follow-up questions? None? Ms. Christine Fong. Thank you, Chair. I want to follow on 092, the question that the other member mentioned. I also want to follow up on 098, a question of mine. I very much agree that we need to address flood risks. For example, the Cheung Kwan O Harborfront Promenade, the waves can go up to 6 to 7 meters. Temporary solutions don't really work. I hope the Bureau can do something in response to this. And I also note in the paper there are some monitoring systems. Do we have that at the Harborfront Promenade? Will we also have other measures, such as the floating barriers and breakwaters? We have for the lift modernization subsidy scheme, we have 30,000 lifts that have an age of 30 years or above. 7 years ago, the government proposed to enhance this scheme. And I note in the reply, only 2,263 lifts, that is 30 to 40% of the total number of lifts, have the enhancements completed. We're relatively slow. Why is that? We expect to have $4.51 billion modernizing 8,000 lifts. So each would cost $560,000, but now we can only have a cost for each lift of $720,000. There's an increase in the cost of 28%. Why is that? It is said we need an additional $1 billion to deal with the 1,200 remaining lifts. So each lift would cost $830,000 to upgrade. Why is there such a higher unit cost? How many applications have consultants engaged by the URA? How can we make sure there is no abuse in the tendering price? Quoted, Secretary, about whether we'll have breakwaters in the harborfront, I will ask the CEDD director to answer that relevant question. And I would also have the director of the EMSD to answer the question on the lift modernization subsidy scheme. Let me first say the unit cost of lift modernization is higher because in the end we are replacing some lifts rather than just upgrading certain components. That has resulted in an increase in the cost. And in our design, elderly persons do receive additional subsidies. That is those who are living in flats they own. And if we have more of the applicants being in this category, we will have a higher cost. As for what the member asked about the seemingly slow progress, I will ask the director of EMSC to answer this. All right, I'll first ask the director of CEDD to answer the specific questions. We have conducted a few studies in the past few years. The first study was in 2021. We have done a study on coastal hazards. We have identified 26 hazards in low-lying or those areas that are subject to winds in Yuen Long. We have 17 out of the 26 locations that have enhancements done, and we have some improvement works to be done. We have 7 that will be completed this year. The 2 will be completed next year. We have also completed a coastal management study in 2024. We have projected what may happen mid-century. We have a series of measures to be implemented in response to the findings. Director of EMSC. Thank you, Chair. I will answer some of the questions. Why is it that we have only completed works for 2,000 odd lifts? It is because after the launch, it was the pandemic And during the pandemic, some owners' committees meetings owners' corporations meetings cannot be held. So that has affected progress. After the pandemic, we have really tried to catch up, and we now have 2,000 odd lifts completed now. The member also asked about how we have 30,000 H lifts in Hong Kong. We have only dealt with 2,000 odd lifts. We have been encouraging owners to enhance or replace H lifts, and we note that from 2018-19 to now, we have seen 14,000 less H lifts than before, and we have 2,000 odd lifts upgraded with the subsidy scheme. We have seen owners still replace lifts that are older. As for the tendering process for lift modernization, they have to make use of smart tender of the URA. We also have EMSC engineers and URA professionals looking at the bids. So we do follow the process. Owners do not make use of the subsidies freely.
Next, Mr. Brave Chan. Thank you, Deputy Chairman, and thank you, Secretary and Directors. Following up on my own question number 9 and 10. So the estimates for the 4 measures, $12 million for central procurement and so on, altogether $43.5 million. The total is $56 million. So there's a gap between the two. Why is that? Second, concerning expenditure for thematic studies, will you consider collaborating with the Standard Standardization Center in the Bay Area to formulate shared standards so as to compress the approval time as well as construction costs for projects? Now, second, the Shenzhen's BCP, there is a joint procurement model. So we can learn from the country as well as other places' practice. They can achieve a saving of some 30 to 40%. So can we introduce similar practices so that we can save cost? For example, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge as well as the Hengqin infrastructure in Macau. Now, we are doing quite well already, but we are racing against time. So can we do better? Secretary. Chairman, the first question is in relation to the figures. I will defer to the Permanent Secretary. On the second question, our collaboration with the Guangdong provincial government, we have a very close working relationship, which will only get closer. There's even framework agreements to take forward our plans. Now, in terms of reviewing the standards of construction projects, we have reached a consensus with the Guangdong provincial government. The Building Technology Research Institute is the point of contact. Now, work is being conducted. Now, we hope we can set a unified standard for construction industry. However, there are numerous standards for different jobs in the construction industry. So we will first start with the benchmarking standards, including the MIC standard or modular construction. These are more important segments. So we will formulate a Bay Area standard for these areas first. And also our procurement model will take reference from the good practice in the Guangdong province. Now, just recently, we have issued a press release that concerning reinforced steel bar, we will start adopting the approach of centralized procurements. Now we are now conducting a market sounding approach, and there will be more news in the middle of the year. Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Member. Now, under Head 5, there are some 30 subheads. So we haven't listed out all our work under the heads. We have only listed the 4 major expenditure items. There are a lot more works which will be funded by the $20 million funding. So forgive me for not going into the details of that. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I'm following up on question number 8, my own question, as well as number 3, a question raised by Mr. Aaron Bog. That's on the Construction Innovation and Technology Fund. In year 2024, the government has conducted a review on the effectiveness of the fund. The finding is that over 7 years, the fund has successfully driven the adoption of I&T products by the industry, so I applaud that. In year 2026-7, the Financial Secretary proposed to inject $1 billion into the fund, together with the $400 million provided by the Construction Industry Council. The $1.4 billion will further promote the wider use of I&T construction methods. The trade welcomes that, but my concern is that back in 2018 and 2022, when the fund was established, the market was still building its reserve of I&T products. At the time, the industry was hesitant in adopting technology products. Now, with the efforts of the government as well as the trade trial, together with the fund, there are more and more I&T products which are highly cost-effective. And there is reliable supply in the market with a competitive price. So if we are further injecting $1.4 billion into the fund, where will it be spent on? The government said that in the next few years, the fund will be used for continuously promoting the wider use of I&T construction technologies by the trade, including the previous items, for example, BIM, 4S, and so on. There's already a wide range of options in the market. So for those willing parties, they would have already adopted them already. So the $1.4 billion, will you use it to promote the use of robots and AI and so on, and reduce application on the rather mature technologies? I think the Secretary understands your question. Secretary. Permanent Secretary, please. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Member. Over the past few years, the industry has introduced a large number of innovative construction methods, for example, BIM, building information modeling, and modular construction. These are mature technologies, and also prefabricated rebars, and also 4S. In Hong Kong, some 60% of the construction sites are already using the 4S system, but still 40% have not used them. This is very crucial for enhancing construction safety, so we will continue to work on that. As mentioned by Mr. Chen, technology develops very rapidly. Besides MIC, MIMAP is also a technology with much potential. So this is an area we will pursue further in the next few years. And also on AI, we see more application of AI-powered software. Products have been developed with great effectiveness. So on one hand, we will support the trade through the fund. And when technologies are mature, we will mandate the use of the technologies in public works projects. By the end of last year and early this year, we have issued 2 technical memorandums mandating the use of mature technologies, including AI and robots. Besides, we will focus the support for SMEs. Over the past few years, it's usually large-scale businesses which had the power and resources as well as opportunities to deploy these technologies. But that's not enough. We need the entire industry to embrace technology. So that's our new focus. We will provide more support to SMEs. Ms. Joby Chen. Thank you, Chair. Question 107, my own question. Part A, the reply says that in Hong Kong there are still some 230 kilometers of freshwater distribution mains using bitumen as in the protective coating. Now, 70 kilometers of the water mains are of high risk, and they will be replaced or maintained in the next decade. That's a long duration of time. So how many mains will be repaired at different phases? So you said you have obtained funding for some of the projects. I'm worried that the remaining mains, they will not receive a checkup even after bursting. So can you speed up the work? And in the interim, can we have any measures in place to reassure the residents? Now, Part B, over the past 3 years, there were 5 bursting incidents involving aged pipes built of concrete. Now, besides bursting risk, they would also disperse asbestos fibers. And also there are 5 cases concerning water mains damaged by nearby roadworks. So will the government prevent this situation from happening again? Secretary. Thank you. I think I will defer to the Director of Water Supplies to answer the questions. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning bitumen coating, there are some 70 kilometers of water mains, large diameter water mains using this type of coating. Now, these are specialized coating which has to fulfill international standard. They must not be soluble in water, and there must not be any harmful substance. Now, the 70 kilometers of water mains, we are adopting a risk-based approach. In 2024, we started the first phase. We completed the first batch of 20-kilometer water mains first. We will seek to complete the replacements in 6 years' time. And for the remaining water mains, we are now conducting planning and design. And at the right time, we will seek funding for maintaining these water mains. For water mains requiring replacements, first of all, we are washing away the sediments in the water mains. That's also in accordance with international standard. Last year, we have conducted more frequent washing operations for the water mains. After washing, we will install filters. Now, we have already installed 1,000 filters already. Now, after the bitumen incident last year, we have installed an additional 110 pieces of filters at suitable locations. We regularly examine and cleanse the filters. So washing, preventing sediments from washing downstream, and also replacing aged water mains. So these are the 3 measures we are adopting to lower the risk. Concerning more brittle materials, for example, asbestos concrete and pig iron. So under the Water Intelligence Network's analysis, these brittle materials are found to be risky. They will lead to bursting of pipes. So now we have identified 44 kilometers of aged water mains under busy road sections built with pig iron and asbestos concrete for replacement. So we will first complete a section of 8-kilometer long water main first. Since the traffic is busy, we have to make advanced planning for our work, and then we will complete the remaining sections in 8 years' time. So asbestos concrete was widely used in the past. It was acceptable under the previous international standard. So please rest assured, asbestos concrete is a safe material for water mains which has been widely used. Thank you.
Well, the last bit about roadworks causing pipe damage. Well, with roadworks, we assessed there were approximately 30% of the incidents being pipe bursts caused by roadworks. We want to do something in a two-pronged approach. With roadworks, we will communicate with those undertaking roadworks to provide more specific information about pipes, and with specific strategic water mains, we would provide such information proactively. We also conduct inspections while the roadworks are being undertaken. Should something happen, we will work with those undertaking roadworks to review this. We also would want to inform the project managers so as to prevent the recurrence of the incident. Mr. Stanley, I would like to follow on two questions. One is 033. Other members have asked about this. I also want to ask about 085. That is my question. On 033, labor importation, we have seen the administration being quite prudent. Now, with labor imported, a lot of them are for public works projects. But approval of labor importation is also done by the government. There may be some sort of conflict of interest. Would you consider incorporating other parties such as the Labor Department and trade unions? I also want to follow up on 085. That is my question. We have a lot of slopes to be managed over, tens of thousands. We have seen the ombudsman making some comments before. We have some mitigation measures to be implemented. There are 2,700 odd of them, but you have only completed works for 500 of the slopes. There is a serious gap. With risk assessments of the government, from this perspective, is it because we have insufficient manpower to do preventive works? I think there's something wrong with resource allocation if we cannot do preventive maintenance. In future, we have the smart slope catalog. We will be making greater use of technology. It will be easier for us to identify potential hazards. And even if we've identified the hazards, if we do not have enough resources or manpower to do something about it, there can be issues, especially for the district constituency that I serve, Island East. There are a lot of slopes. Actually, the whole Hong Kong Island has a lot of slopes. So how can we make sure there is proper resource allocation? Secretary, for the second question about slope management and relevant resource allocation, I will ask the director of CEDD to answer that question. As for the first question about labor importation for the construction sector, I'm sure you have observed in the past few years we have the quota being 12,000, but we have only approved cumulatively 6,000 or 7,000 applications. So we are really being quite prudent. The approval authority is indeed the permanent secretary of the Development Bureau. He's leading an internal committee for this, but he is acting fairly. And a lot of the applications were rejected. We have the labor sector's participation in the process, actually. We have, for some projects that are to import labor, we have had extensive communication in determining what projects they are. We have communication beforehand with the labor sector and quarterly before we make announcements. So with the trades we're importing labor, we have specific demand for workers in those areas. Director of CEDD. Thank you, Chair. I want to address the point about the Ombudsman's report. The Ombudsman actually expressed appreciation of the efforts of the CEDD for many years. About the 3,000 odd natural slopes or hillside catchments. The 3,000 odd slopes are not unsafe at the moment. We have selected the 3,000 odd slopes in the sense that should there be a landslide, the structures in the vicinity may be affected, or there are major roads nearby that can be affected. There is a greater hazard. We have then selected them. And for the 3,000 odd slopes, when there is extreme rainfall, if with the risk of landslide, we have ordered them. And since 2021, we have dealt with 520 slopes as said in the reply. Every year, we will gradually increase to 40 slopes per year from 32 years ago. As the member said, we are also trying to make use of advanced technologies such as AI to identify more specifically slopes of high risk to deal with them. So with the allocation of work in the department, we believe we have minimized the risk of landslides. Thank you, Chair. All right, this is the end of the discussion of this session. Thank you. Please don't turn off my mic. The next session is to start at 5:20 p.m.